Greetings, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. The original languages of the Bible were written without using any symbols or characters to represent the vowel sounds which those languages made when they were spoken. They were written using consonant characters alone, even though when spoken, those languages did produce vowel sounds as well. That raises the question of how it was possible for different people to read those languages out loud or those writings out loud without everyone coming up with their own vowel sounds for a given word. What was there to stop one person from reading the consonants BD, for example, as bed, while another reads them as bid, and yet a third one reads them as bad? To answer that question, we must look back to what human beings wanted writing to do for them when they first invented it. Writing was invented to enable a person to speak with another who was separated from them by distance and time. Of course, it only did that successfully if, but for distance and time, the speaker could converse with their listener in the language that was being written. In other words, the only barriers to communication which writing was invented to overcome are distance and time, and not language. The importance of that understanding will become clear further on in this video. Writing the original languages of the Bible using consonant characters alone evidently did nothing to diminish their effectiveness in overcoming the barriers of distance and time. Because if it was otherwise, then that form of writing would not have survived for as long as it did. Why then is it that sometime in between the 5th and the 10th centuries AD, a group of people known as Masoretes inserted into the original language writings of the Bible symbols or characters which they claim represented the vowel sounds which those languages made when they were spoken? What shortcoming in that form of writing did they find that they could address by doing so? It is true that in the course of time, people gradually lost the ability to speak the original languages of the Bible. At the same time, a growing number of people were getting interested in reading the Bible in its original languages. Most of those people were not familiar with the geographic as well as other contexts in which the Bible was written. The result was that many people began to give different pronunciations to the same word in those writings. The ancients did not have that problem because they as well as their listeners could tell what the correct pronunciation of a word should be from their knowledge of the language and their familiarity with the context. The Masoretes, we are told, wanted to put an end to that problem and to bring matters to where everyone reading those writings pronounced a given word the same way. So they invented a set of characters called vowel points, which when inserted in certain positions relative to the consonants of a word, specified to the reader exactly how to pronounce that word. It is not clear what benefit the Masoretes had in mind for a person reading the original writings of the Bible with their vowel points inserted. And that's because getting a person to pronounce correctly the words of a language which they cannot converse in does not in any way enhance that person's ability to understand what is being said in that language. Moreover, the problem of understanding a language cannot be solved by manipulating the way that language is written, because the only barriers to communication which writing was intended to overcome are distance and time. As for those who could speak or who could converse in the original languages of the Bible, they had no need for those vowel points. Clearly, the vowel pointing system benefited neither those who could not speak the original languages of the Bible, nor those who could. So why then did the Masoretes invest so much time and effort into creating that vowel pointing system and getting it accepted so widely? What were they really after? The Masoretes used the vowel pointing system to specify exactly how every single word in the original writings of the Bible should be pronounced. That included words which were names of people and places. Names of places ordinarily do not change from language to language. Nigeria, for example, is still Nigeria regardless of what language one is using. Therefore, by accepting the vowel pointing system that the Masoretes invented, humanity handed to the Masoretes the power to change, if they so wished, how the names of every place that the Bible mentioned is pronounced. That would happen in all translations of the Bible and across all languages, without the necessity of making any changes to the original writings of the Bible. That is the power which the Masoretes were after when they invented their vowel pointing system. And they promptly used that power to change how the names are pronounced of every place that the Bible mentions, which could reveal the location of the biblical Israel. And the reason they did so is because from their very beginning, the Masoretes were an integral part of the mission to counterfeit the biblical Israel at a location and place it somewhere that was different from the original, the location of the original. Among the names which the Masoretes changed to great effect is that of the wilderness, which the Israelites first entered when they left Egypt. No one reading the original writings of the Bible could have thought that the name of that wilderness should be pronounced Shur. And that's because no record exists outside the Bible of any wilderness, not just near Egypt, but anywhere in the world, called Shur, that they could have based their conclusion upon. The only wilderness that is located near Egypt and the spelling of whose name has the same consonants as the word Shur, arranged in the same order, is the Sahara Desert. Anyone having knowledge of the evidence presented in the first video, which I've linked in the description box below, and which presents proof that the Israelites went west and not east when they left Egypt, can be left with any doubt whatsoever that the wilderness that the Israelites first entered when they left Egypt is the Sahara Desert. The only reason why all Bible translations refer to that wilderness as Shur is because the Masoretes used their vowel pointing system to give it that pronunciation. But perhaps the most consequential name which the Masoretes used their vowel pointing system to change is that of the mountain which Abraham was commanded to sacrifice his son Isaac on. Abraham gave the name of the particular mountain upon which he nearly sacrificed Isaac the name Zion. This is the same mountain upon which the temple as well as Jerusalem were later built. Concerning that mountain, the prophet Isaiah said the following: "In the last days, the mountain of our Creator's temple will be chief among the mountains, and all nations will stream to it. Many people will say, 'Come, let us go up to the mountain of our Creator, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, and we will walk in his paths.' The Torah will go out from Zion, the word of our Creator from Jerusalem." So if you, my listener, believe, as I do, that the days we are now living in are indeed the last days, then you really want to know exactly where that mountain is located. Nearly every Bible translation pronounces the name of those mountains as Moriah. According to the book of Jubilees, it took Abraham 7 days to travel from Beersheba, where he lived, to the mountains of Moriah and back. And it also took Isaac 14 days to travel from Beersheba to Egypt. That tells us that the mountains of Moriah could not have been very far from Beersheba. The second video, which I've linked below, presents the evidence that Beersheba was located in the western region of present-day Sudan. That means that the mountains of Moriah could not have been located very far from Egypt and also from the western region of present-day Sudan. The only mountains which are in that region and whose name is spelled using the same consonants as the word Moriah and arranged in the same order are the Mara Mountains in Darfur of western Sudan. Anyone having knowledge of the contents of the video which I have linked, the third video which I have linked in the description box below, and which presents proof that Jebel Mara is the true location of the biblical Jerusalem, can have any doubt that the mountains of Moriah are actually the Mara Mountains of Darfur. The only reason why anyone would think that those mountains were called Moriah is because the Masoretes used their vowel pointing system to give those mountains that pronunciation. Thank you very much for your time and attention, and have a great day. Bye-bye.